Looking for your seat?
All right.
Right here, Debbie. No, you get the broken chip seat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, let's let everybody get seated first.
sure. Gave me this in.
I know, well, we're missing somebody. It was Gary.
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 He can miss this.
All right.
He's patronized.
Okay. Let's start the called meeting to order. And say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, full house tonight. So if any member of the public would like to comment on an agenda item, please fill out a blue comment card and give it to the board secretary in the back. If you're attending virtually through Zoom, place comments in the chat and the board secretary will call on you at the appropriate time. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Current policy allows for any item on the agenda to be open for comment. 2.0 is our first agenda item. And we do have one request. Anya, do you have? I have one from Judy. Okay, we have two tonight, both pertaining to the same agenda item. Let's go on to 2.2 financial report. Are there any questions? 2.3. Any questions on full faith and credit project report? 2.4 personnel report, 0.5 enrollment report. Moving on to 3.0, all items on the consent agenda can be approved by a single motion unless a member of the board, Superintendent Sweeney, requests an item to be changed, removed, or voted on separately. Are there any changes or additions? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Member Schmidt moves that we approve the consent agenda as is.
Member Sable seconds.
Having a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Tanya? Can I have a roll call?
Member Goodall,
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Schmidt,
Yes.
Member Richardson,
Yes.
Sable,
Yes.
Member Brownell,
Yes.
Member Wong.
Yes. 4.0 reports. 4.1 is explorations at Allendale and Redwood. You're up.
Hey there.
That's you.
Good evening. So Christine and I are kind of partnering together. We brought.
Oh my goodness.
People with us.
Amazing people.
Talk about, kind of give you an idea about what our explorations programs look like at both Allendale and Redwood. Something that's really special about these programs is very individualized for each kiddo, but a very strong sense of community within the classroom. So I brought from Allendale, Vicki Fry, who's our lead teacher, and she's going to be speaking in just a second, and Chris McKinley, who is one of our assistants within the program, and then I'll pass over to Christine because she brought with her entire staff. So.
I brought my lead teacher, Elby Patel, right here. Mackenzie, and then some of her staff, Mackenzie Millette, Allison Coker, and Christopher Sandoval, and Justin Rodriguez here. And we are so proud that they are here to share their classroom with you today. We're going to start off with.
So yeah, demographics at Allendale, we have 17 students. It kind of breaks it down. What's going on with each kiddo, 13 kiddos with autism, one with emotional behavior disability, 2 intellectually disability, and 1 OHI. And with that, we have 7 current staff, 1 certified and 6 classified within the program.
Redwood, you can kind of see the breakdown there. We have 14 students, and you can see there's a lot of similarities, but then we do have some differences in our programs. And it's just every year our program changes with our students. We have 8 staff currently. Both programs have that lead teacher and then classified. The other thing to note is that we have a lot of specialists that come in and work with our students. We have OT, PT. Redwood has vision specialists that come in and work with our students. Speech, we have a lot of different, what else did we talk about? Skills trainers, autism specialists, staff that come in and work with our students from around the district. So from that, we're gonna turn it over and let our. Sure. Hey. You want to speak?
Yes.
Just a little jump. We do have 1 extra staff now. She started yesterday. That was great. Yes, so this is sort of our daily schedule. I did leave out a few things just within the box. We do a lot of movement breaks in between our academics, just so that we can do a little bit of academic, then we get some movement, then we do some academic, do some movement. That way the kids aren't sitting in their seat for a long period of time. We also have integrated for, like Jake said, it's very individualized, so kids you can see the first then chart, and we also have penny charts, so they earn those pennies at different times throughout the day. And so they get whatever their preferred is, a sensory break or a little recess break or playing a game or like kind of whatever they need throughout the day. We do the calendar. We have our intermediate kids going out. When we do calendar, they go to music and PE. We do calendars with our littles. And then in the afternoon, when our littles go to music and PE, the upper grade kids then have a center time to work on their skills.
Nice, okay, so our schedule is up there also. And the classroom itself is set up to be highly visual based, and those visuals help the students access the environment and be successful. We have our little schedule, and each student has one of their own on their desk, and we take time 3 times a day to set up our schedule. And I run the smart board, and they set up their schedules and they know exactly what's happening. And we always end the schedule check with that fun thing, whether that be recess or lunch, that thing we're all looking forward to, that little break.
Yeah, and we start with breakfast as a morning check-in to say good morning to our students and let them settle in. And then a portion of them go out to their gen ed classes. And then we do eat lunch in the cafeteria with 2nd grade.
And then 5 of our students have their own scheduled motor time in the sensory room, whether that's to work on core exercises or crossing the midline, engaging the brain, ready to learn in our next thing, or to just simply get the wiggles out.
Oh, sorry. Students start joining the gen ed classrooms with morning work, calendar time. Then begin adding after that we add recess, lunch, second step, including class meetings, specials, and academic times when they are ready.
We have 11 5th grade buddies. They all, sorry. Spoiler alert.
Do Redwood first. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
We have 11 5th grade buddies. All these students applied to come join our classroom at the beginning of the school year for about 20-30 minutes, and expectations are reviewed with them. We select activities that are a little bit outside of our students' normal skill level. That way the 2 can work together as a team to accomplish the task.
And then kind of as a special treat, we also have 2 students from outside of our classroom that are outside of 5th grade buddies that earn time extra to come into our class. They want to come in, so they work it out with their teachers.
So, we have 15 out of our 17 current students that go out for some general education time, whether that be music and PE or an academic section or recess or whatever. It ranges anywhere from 30 to probably 60, it might be actually 90 minutes now. Oh, other experiences at Allendale. So that same push out for general education period, we've already talked about that a little bit. On Friday, we do weekly art projects, just so that it's a little bit of break from the norm. And then they get that creative piece out too. And then we have a garden area that's just outside of our classroom, and it has 4 planters. And so we try to incorporate that into some of our learning, mostly springtime.
And these are our highlight experiences. So we have 11 fifth grade buddies. And 71% of the students join into a gen ed time in their regular classroom. At the beginning of the year, Mrs. Mooney is certain, or she schedules each of the students a spot in their gen ed classroom. So for example, a second grader has a homeroom class, and those teachers come to the IEP meetings. It's just the natural flow. They come to the IEP meetings, and then most of the time my students have a desk in their classroom starting at the beginning of the year. And so joining the class is just, it's just so smooth and easy. Then we have 3 students that go over to the resource room for their learning time, which is super exciting, and they're sort of getting their feet wet on transitioning out. And then we go to all the field trips and music programs. So we do our very best to join into all of those. So at Redwood, we have like a first grade music program or a second grade music program. And we do our very best to make sure that the students get to be a part of those large school events.
So we asked some family or our families for a little bit of feedback, and they provided some quotes. We're not going to read those to you because it's pretty extensive, but something to note is some of the quotes were so long that we actually had to shorten them up a bit up there. I mean, parents are very appreciative of the program, very appreciative of the staff, and have seen the growth that their children have made over the years. So very evident.
We see our staff going above and beyond for our students, you know, in many, many ways. So we are really proud of what our staff does, and yeah, I wanted to share that with you.
Any questions?
Yes.
Debbie,
So what does OHI stand for?
other health impaired.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming. 4.2, plan course statement for GPHS. Principal Napier.
Oh, yeah. My name's on there. I know, it says Michelle, but I said I couldn't go to a meeting without talking to the board.
Glad you like it.
Wanted to take this opportunity to explain, especially with 4 new board members, how our new course development at Grants Pass High School works, what the process looks like before we get to this point here at the board meeting today. During the course, we encourage our staff at all levels, but the high school is tied to graduation and credit bearing. And so we have to go through a process to ensure that it's going to meet the level and rigor necessary in order to earn the credit the student needs towards graduation. Michelle and her team encourages staff to use their talents, their strengths, create things that will be maybe of interest to students. The teacher, typically what they do is they're floating ideas by their colleagues, talking, brainstorming, maybe meeting with administration at the high school or with me, talking about the possibilities, the budget impacts, what all should be considered in developing the class. When the teacher finally gets to a place of, okay, I'm ready to move this course forward, they fill out what's called a planned course statement that you have in your packet with you today. The teachers take it to their department, and the department all provides input, feedback. How does this look? Is this a class we can support? Then they take it to administration, go through the same process, and the department leaders, all department leaders across because what might get offered in math might for some reason have a tie to another subject area, so the department leaders all come together and review the classes as well. When that whole process is done, we then take it to our parent advisory council. The teachers come and do a presentation with our parent advisory council. They review it, give input, and then finally it comes before the board. So it is a rigorous process that happens prior to this point today. I do want to take note though, I made a choice to bring 3 of the classes. There's more classes next month. And I just wanted to separate them on the agenda, and the way this month fell, the parent advisory council hasn't necessarily reviewed these, but all of these teachers will be at Thursday's parent advisory council. If you wanted to table the action item to approve them until after that, we could do them all together next month in February. I'm fine with that. I just wanted to, because there's, I think we're gonna have 6 different classes being presented to you. So 3 of them are here today, and then we'll do the other 3 next month. Any questions about the process? Because it's really about the teachers and what they're doing. We're gonna start with cybersecurity and Brendan.
Everybody, so yeah, I'm presenting cybersecurity. This, I can advance through this. So this is the actual plan course statement. It's a little bit dry. I prepared a slideshow that makes it a little bit easier to go through this. So that's kind of what we came up with. We've been, I'll just go right from the start. So if you wanted to follow along, you can scan this. It'll give you a link to this to the complete slideshow. I felt like this is a very appropriate way, consider it's a computer-based class, to kind of highlight this. Try to keep things off of paper as much as possible.
Just move your picture.
Okay. Okay, so why do we need a cybersecurity course? Cybersecurity is crucial because it safeguards all types of data against theft and loss. This includes sensitive data, protected health information, personally identifiable information, intellectual property, personal information, data, and government business information systems. So to put it short, like we're using our digital devices more and more all the time, but all of that stuff comes with some inherent risk, and we need to protect ourselves, and we need to protect our systems from that. So it also helps mitigate the risk of data breaches, financial losses, and reputational damage. So the consequences of some of these of this data getting out can have real long-term effects. I mean, anybody who's been part of one of those data breaches or received like something from their bank or received something from their credit card or something like this knows. I mean, it can be a little chilling to think that your livelihood is being compromised. So the demand for cybersecurity jobs has risen significantly over the past few years, with more than 1 million cybersecurity jobs available by 2023. However, less than 400,000 cybersecurity professionals will be trained by then, including in our own state. U of O, for instance, just started their cybersecurity program this year. OIT, I think, is in year 2 of theirs, and RCC is still kind of putting theirs together. Average security analyst salaries in Oregon alone are around $96,300 annually. This is our current course offerings in computer science. So we had Introduction to Computers, which is formerly Introduction to Game Programming. We still have an intermediate game programming for people who like that pathway and want to continue. Mobile app inventor or mobile app development. That's mostly building apps for your phone and tablets and things like this. Fundamentals of Python was just added this year, and it seems to be going well. Python is a programming language. AP Computer Science Principles and AP Computer Science A. Those are both courses that we've carried on from previous years. Again, they are the AP courses. Principles is kind of an overview a little bit, and AP Computer Science really deep dives into Java. And then we have independent projects for anything that, I say anything, but basically anything that do with programming or computers that we may not have enough interest in to field a full course or to field multiple courses, but it's still something viable. For instance, I've had students do like C#, build web pages, some of those kind of things, 3D modeling, and that kind of stuff. So proposed course offerings, glaring one, cybersecurity, which is why I'm here tonight. This is our proposed pathway. So in the past, we've just had a single pathway, and that was the one that light doesn't show up there. Okay, very good. I was trying to do a trying to shine the red light up there. It doesn't show very well. But up if you look on the left, following the green to yellow pathway. So it starts with introduction to computers. In yellow, jumping over to intermediate game programming, mobile app development into kind of the capstone AP Computer Science principles. And then if you have interest in going further, you could go into Computer Science A. This year, we added the middle section where you go from the intro class to CS Python fundamentals into AP Computer Science principles. We're developing, and this is the part that would round this out, is going that to that right stage, which would be the purple, where students are more interested in learning about networks and hardware. Like, how does all this stuff work? We know we can work it. We all like have those, like the devices in our pockets. We know we can work it, but how does it actually work? How does Wi-Fi work? Is it actually wireless? You know, these kind of things. So we're going to talk about some of that that class. That's coming up in 2 weeks, I think, not even 2 weeks at this point. This will be the first time we teach this is next semester. Really looking forward to it. And then cybersecurity, we're going to be adding to this. So you can see cybersecurity, there's some obvious issues, possibly issues with it, as far as we don't want to be teaching people how to hack into stuff, really. I mean, really, like you want to, but you have to know some of how to do that kind of thing in order to protect against it. So this is why we kind of made it like third in the pathway. So we get to know some of the students, get to know what their motivations are, what is their career, what is their, you know, like career aspirations look like, that kind of thing. And then again, capping out at the AP Computer Science principles. So what I'm going to teach in cybersecurity. This is just some of the things, how those come about. I imagine probably some of that is going to be fluid at first. Going to figure out what works. We're also looking at having some consultants come in and talk to us about this, what's used in the industry, that kind of thing. But understanding what security is, doing a threat assessment. How do we know if we're in any danger of getting hacked, or how do we know if I go into a coffee shop and I open my laptop that somebody isn't getting into it? So ethics, which may actually go a little bit like before some of those other things. But ethics is obviously a very important part of this. We don't want, again, we don't want just people just like, hey, now I know how to hack something, I'm gonna go check it out on my friends or whatever else, because a lot of this stuff is not only sensitive and morally questionable, but some of it's illegal, a lot of it actually. So you have to be real careful with that kind of thing. So consulting and auditing, it's not all just funds and, you know, fun and breaking into things. You have to actually know how to be able to write up reports, and you have to be able to know how to communicate with clients and that kind of thing. Learning some of the tools of the trade. Defense, you know, how do you prevent all these things from happening to you? How is the best way to protect yourself and protect your clients? Maybe protect your employer or whatever it is. Penetration testing. This is kind of where it arguably becomes a lot more fun, but a little bit more sensitive. We'll be working in virtual environments for this, or very controlled environments. Most of the things that we'll be testing on are being used heavily by colleges already, and we'll be testing some things that are they're already known fixes. So if somebody's running the newest version of Windows 10 or Windows 11 and it's been patched, these particular these particular penetration methods wouldn't work on them, so we're gonna be testing on Windows 7. The idea being that you can teach the concepts without making it too dangerous, I guess. Again, this one at the bottom, reporting, that goes with the consulting and auditing. You have to be able to learn how to communicate with people. This isn't, I like to tell my students, you know, long gone are the days where you're just where you're the solo, you know, guy, you know, working in your mom's basement and stuff. You're going to most likely be working with a team, and you have to be able to get along with them, and you have to be able to report and communicate with them. And then digital forensics, I just added kind of at the end. I have some students who are interested in possible careers with the FBI. And this is a very specialized field that they deal a lot with, which is digital forensics, finding out you know, where a picture originated, you know, what's the metadata behind it, and that kind of thing. All right, so what's next? Want to improve our relationship with RCC and OIT and their cybersecurity programs. Working on some certifications. So CBT Nuggets is an online. They offer all kinds of different online coursework. CompTIA, if you've ever heard of A+ certification, Network Plus, or Security Plus, those are all CompTIA. Internships. So we've got a couple of local. This is a little more difficult because we're not a heavy concentrated like computer area, but there's some potential in hospitals, Dutch Rose, even the district office here, Fire Mountain Gyms, and then I put up the question mark, maybe some other ideas that people might have. And then college alignment, as these programs develop, both with RCC and OIT, we'd like to be able to offer some initial, like maybe, you know, +2 credits, those kind of things. And then developing the culture. I think the culture is very important. And I started noticing, I haven't been teaching a ton of time. I think this is maybe my 5th year. A lot of the programs at the high school have a culture built behind them. The one that immediately comes to mind is band. And students really buy into the band, and that's part of identity and that kind of thing. And I think accepting that culture of you know, computers and kind of like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, kind of that nerd culture a little bit. And it's okay, you know, you don't have to be an outcast just because this is your thing. So, all right, that's it. Thank you. Do anybody have any questions?
Is that the Hackers Club?
Thank you for presenting. I'm just curious, like, you talked about having like 2 courses before you would get to this course, and you know the kids. Yeah. Is there gonna be some sort of vetting criteria? Or is it just, we know the kids, so they're able to take the course?
Most of our courses go through, or a lot of our courses in CTE, they rely on recommendation. So a student who didn't show either the maturity or the lack of you know, like a certain level of dedication or something like this, might not be the best choice in that recommendation.
So this course is designed specifically for those who have an interest in career.
Yes, correct. I mean, I wouldn't think this would be the best to just turn them loose out on the street for that. Yeah.
I think that's a really neat program. My son was a part of this when he was here at Grants Pass High. This is related, kind of non-related, but do we get much information from the surveys we do, saying in grade school, that kind of help kids see their aptitudes and develop their aptitudes so they kind of know what CTE programs they want to go into, you know, such as this? Because that's certainly a specific skill set and aptitude to have. I do not do well with this sort of thing. My son was amazing.
So Sean has come in, presented to you guys before about Navigance is a tool we use. It has self-assessment surveys, student interest, what it's your strength finder, what are you really good at? We also, from assessments we get information like that we share with our students. It's part of our counseling program, part of our college and career center, it's part of what the teachers do in the classroom. Starting in elementary school, as they're exposing kids to all the various career tracks, career possibilities that are out there. When I was a kid, this didn't even exist, so helping kids know what's possible and the path to get there is what career and technical ed teachers are really good at.
One thing that we just did is, and Shauna set this up with, Jake, we had fourth graders from Allendale come and do a tour of all of our CTE programs. And it was super cool for the little kiddos to see what was available as they got older and get them excited about some different opportunities and maybe things that they've never thought about before.
That's great. Thanks.
I do know too that some of the students who take my course, maybe as a freshman or something like this, they weren't specifically interested in competitors or something like this, but they find after the first semester, they're like, whoa, I'm actually like, maybe this isn't the love of my life or whatever, but I am really good at it. And that can go a long way when you're considering careers.
Thanks, Brendan. Oh, no, sorry.
Just one comment kind of related to the career aspect, which is there is so much programming, I guess I'll call it, in the world, that having an exposure to it, which was kind of what you were just talking about, is actually really important. It doesn't matter what career field you think you want to be in. Even just using programs like Excel, you'll see a lot of job openings that'll say that they want people to have skills in operating Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel. But really what they mean is being able to, besides being familiar with them, is to use scripting and macros and things like that, which all comes back to programming. So it would be good just for actually all of our students to have some awareness or been through a class related to programming, even if they think that's the farthest thing away from what they want to do in their life. So that's just a comment from high school.
Cybersecurity would fit into that because everybody who's going to go into the workforce and use computers and devices needs to understand cybersecurity. They do a lot of that at our work. We get phished all the time. You know, IT will send a bait. If we click on it, we have to go through the training. I get it.
Yes.
Very clever.
Brendan.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I don't have a presentation, but I do have a paper with a lot of text that applies for font. I'm all about fitting things on one page. So I wanted just to start, I'm not sure how aware you guys are about the current ODE math pathway and the changes that have been made at the high school level. So I just want to kind of give you the Reader's Digest version of the basics, just to make sure we're all on the same page. But the traditional track was Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and variations on that. And the current pathway is what they call the 2+1 model, where the first 2 years all students will take, which will be Algebra 1 for a year, and then Geometry and Data Science. Now, we have opportunities in Grants Pass School District for students to take those in middle school as well and meet those requirements earlier. But the bulk of our students will start their freshman year in Algebra 1 and then take a semester of either Data Science first and then Geometry second, and vice versa. So then the third year has traditionally been an Algebra 2 year. But the ODE guidance has kind of opened up more possibilities for our students, realizing that not every kid is going to be going to a four-year university requiring Algebra 2. And so the majority of our students will stay on that college prep track, Algebra 2, pre-calc, calculus, AP stats, whatever they have time for before graduation. But what we're really looking to do is to create more math opportunities like Mr. Linderman that will open up these career pathways for our students
And statistics definitely opens the doors to some very high paying jobs if it's something that they realize they're interested in. And so the bait here for the students is sports statistics. It's teaching the statistical concepts, but in the concept, all the context will be sports context. And so the goal is to get kids excited about math, to teach them some really core mathematical information that will help them in life just as an adult, but also in multiple career pathways, but that will also be interesting to them. So Tyler was supposed to be here tonight too. He wasn't really feeling well, but we're both AP stats teachers, and we never hear from kids, when am I ever going to use this? Because every single thing that we teach them is taught in context, and there's a lot of applications for those things. And so traditionally, we have a different group of kids that don't have those pathways open to them because they have to have a C or better in Algebra 2 to even take AP statistics, right? And so this is an opportunity for a different group of students to be able to experience that. And we're super excited with the new pathway that we rolled out this year, that students, all students have the opportunity to take data science for a full semester. And so when the student successfully completes that, then they will be able to take the sports statistic class if it's being offered. And so our current +1 options include an applied technical math, and there's a mistake on here. It says math 63 and 64, so just 63 at RCC. That's one option, which is super awesome. Jeremy Knight teaches that, and they can, everything is kind of within the construction, plumbing, electrical context. So it's actual applied math, and he has those little hands-on projects with that. Our current other only +1 option besides Algebra 2 is fundamentals of Algebra 2. So where this sports statistics class would fit in that pathway is kind of replacing fundamentals of Algebra 2 for students who would be interested in this pathway. It could also be just taken as an elective for a senior who's met their math requirements and just is interested in sports statistics. So it's kind of cool. The other thing that really lowers barriers for our students is that statistics really places an emphasis on technology. Like Mr. Linderman mentioned, there are so many opportunities that students have to utilize technology. And we really rely heavily on that in statistics. So for students that have had historically like a hard time with the computation part of it, we use the technology to do that part. And then we analyze and say, well, what do these numbers mean? And so I had one student who had always struggled in math, and this was in AP statistics, but he was like really good in like political studies and all that. And when he took AP statistics, he got like an A on every test because it's kind of a different branch of mathematics. And this would just be an opportunity to open that up to more students. I did kind of list here the chapters with all the different sections and everything. And there's some kind of fun questions that they ask. Some of them are like from 2015 that these kids aren't like, they're like, who's Cam Newton? But anyways, I'll try to like bring in this is a 2019 textbook, which is still somewhat recent, but I'll try and bring in some more like relevant statistics as well. So that's kind of the big picture of it. I'm just wondering if there's any questions I can answer. Yes, sir.
Yes, so sports is the carrot, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's just a wonderful idea. In my graduate work, I took lots of statistics, and I wish they would have given me a carrot because that was terrible.
I was talking about like colon cancer and dogs, and so you're like, how about if we talk about a fantasy football draft or something?
Now, in the course, though, do you begin talking to them about the connection between what's being done and the real world beyond sports, so they understand that it's more than just sports analysis?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, this is the context for it, but even in my AP stats class, I'm like, okay, here's where the supplies like, elections or pharmaceuticals. And if you're interested in this, if you can look at this data and analyze it, and like Mr. Linderman said, communicate that to other people, and you're interested in this type of thing, here's all of the other job opportunities that it opens up.
Yeah, I think that's key. Good for you. Terrific.
All right. Thank you very much.
That's great.
Anything to get me doing.
Hi, okay, so,
Yeah.
this year is the first year that the College Forward has started to offer AP
pre-calculus. We didn't start it this year primarily because it was new to everybody. There's very few schools throughout the region that are actually offering it. Also had to do with the fact that we had new curriculum for Algebra 1, geometry and data science, so trying not to do everything brand new this year. Currently, our pre-calculus class is aligned with SOU. They get Math 111 and Math 112 credit through SOU. They would still have the option of getting Math 111 and 112 through SOU, but this would also add that they could take the AP test and earn AP credit. Some schools don't want to recognize the Math 111 and Math 112 from SOU, like private schools out of the state. More schools recognize AP credit. So it's an option for them to take that test and earn that credit there. Most of the topics will still be similar. There's some topics that will be taken out to make room for, I would say, some more rigorous topics that AP has asked that we teach and would be on the AP test for them. Originally, just to get kind of a feel for where my students were, I did give them a quick little survey to see if it would have been AP this year, would they have taken the class or would they have failed and thought it was too hard? Close to 94% of them said that they still would have stuck with it. There were also several comments saying that they felt like pre-calculus should be AP, mainly because they want to boost their GPA because they know that they get that weighted GPA as well. It is already aligned with the college, so a lot of them feel like they're already taking an AP class, but then they're disappointed to find out that they're not getting the GPA boost and they're not able to take that AP test. So it would be an option for them. Wouldn't be a requirement for them to take the AP test, but just giving them kind of one more option if they wanted to take the AP test there. On the document, there's 4 units that AP has put out for pre-calculus. The last unit is optional. It's not on the AP test, because College Board has recognized every state has their own few little standards that the colleges want taught. So on the document, it shows.
Can you
Which
have them
ones?
scroll
Yeah,
down
sorry.
to the last page, please?
I went through and crossed off the ones that SOU doesn't require and then left the ones that SOU does require and ask us to teach. So that 4th unit, that's why some of them are kind of crossed off down there.
We're almost there.
That's kind of-
There we go.
It's
There we go. There.
College Board likes to be really wordy, so most of this was from college and there, but so we would still do some of that 4th unit probably after the AP test, just to meet those requirements for SOU, and that way they could still get those there as well. Questions? Yeah.
Yeah, so you say the College Board is offering a test, an AP test for this?
Yeah, starting
Okay,
this year.
so Southern Oregon University will accept the credit without the test?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, that's the only college you're aware of that'll do that right now.
We used to be associated with RCC, but RCC has different requirements for math than SOU. So we've been doing all of the college credit for SOU for pre-calculus and calculus for the last 3 years.
No other
The
four,
credits
no,
from- The credits from SOU will transfer. to
Oh,
other
okay,
schools.
that's my
There's a small
question.
population of
okay,
private schools around the country that would rather recognize maybe credit earned from an AP test
Right.
versus Southern Oregon
Right.
University. We always tell the kids when thinking about whether do I take the AP test, do I pay for the college credit, do I maybe do both?
okay.
You know, look at the school that you're planning to attend or these schools that maybe you have your eye on and what do they say? You could reach out to an academic advisor. There's really a lot of kids that do both. They they pay for the college credit and then they take the AP test because it's a great way to practice a test
Sure.
in a state.
So if they pay for the test, they get the college credit before they graduate and they can transfer
if they
that.
pay for the test and they
University of
pass,
Oregon.
They have to earn a certain
Sure.
score on the test, and College Board has a website where you can plug in the school of your choice. AP pre-calculus, and then it will tell you, the school will give you college credit for this course and this many credits if you get a 3. If you get a 4, you get this. If you get a 5, you get this. So there's some ways to research, so kids know what's the benefits.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Right. Facilities update, TP Flex, sensory playground.
Yeah, thanks. I'll start by, I'm not gonna start with that one. I'm gonna start with GP Flex. So every day you can drive by over there and see a little bit of progress. And we are getting close, just for kind of communication purposes. The far one down there on A Street, it's the smaller of the building. We refer to that as building 1, and that's where our middle school GPAS is going to reside. That will allow us to have multiple sessions there and not have to split an environment with GPAS over at the high school. The middle 2 that are kind of the twins there are going to be our primary classrooms for our virtual environment for GP Flex. And then the closest one over here is where Keith in the administrative office will be housed. So building 2 and 3 are supposed to be finished up tonight. When I say finished, it's the majority of what Will Scott is going to be doing. There are a few things that we won't be able to wrap up, some finishing paint work on the outside because of the weather and whatnot, but we'll essentially have the inside of the buildings operational and functional. 1 and 4 will are both anticipated to be completed the following night, with Thursday being a possible catch-up day if there are just a few things that cannot be done. So we're getting really excited about that. Buildings 1, 2, and 3 have carpet. Keith has the Taj Mahal over there, so he's getting some LVT, which is some vinyl. He actually has the oldest building over there, and so we had to put in some new tile there that looks like hardwood floor, which will be really nice over there. So we're looking forward to that. Probably starting to see some landscaping, some trees are in, a number of shrubs have been put in. There's a whole lot more on the backside over there that will continue to go in over the next couple of days. You can see the fence posts are up. We're waiting to put in the chain link fence until after the landscaping is done, so it's a little bit easier for them to complete their work over there. Have 3 access points. One of them is going to be on the far side that we already have. That's where it's basically a double gate over there where we've been able to have big rigs come in. It's where the band has been accessing the yard over there to be able to store all of their supplies and some of the larger containers. That will continue over there. We'll have one in the corner that will feed into Keith's office, and then the main one will be right in the front there. On Dean right over here, right next to that main entrance gate. We just decided today on what the sign looked like, identifying it as GP Flex and hopefully doing a little bit of advertising with us. Fire inspection is going to happen tomorrow. We're all set with that. Got all the hardware and wiring ready to go for the infrastructure, for all of the technology. So we're moving along very well. We have tonight, assuming that 2 and 3 get finished, custodial crew from the high school will be coming down to do some additional cleaning and some shampooing of carpets to get it ready to go. Keith will be bringing his teachers over tomorrow to kind of get a tour of what it looks like. Nate and maintenance will be meeting up with them to kind of outline what the layout of the classrooms are going to look like. And so we're pretty excited, and we're anticipating that we're going to be wrapping things up on the 22nd. So hoping to start about that time. So it's been a long time coming, but we're pretty excited that we're getting pretty darn close. So thinking that in about a couple of weeks, we'll be able to start there'll obviously be a transition plan for closing up shop over there and getting materials over here and kids adjusting to that, but we're super excited to have them closer to us and provide opportunities for the kids moving forward who might potentially have some kind of hybrid schedule to be able to access the high school in a lot easier way than when it's housed over at Gladiola. So pretty excited about that. Be happy to answer any questions about GP Flex if you have any, or it might even be more apropos for
Tommy,
Keith.
can you speak about the trash compactor space?
Yeah, so in the backside over there where the double gate is, we're looking at, we're building a pad. Currently, we have the trash compactor up outside the automotive classroom up there, but that hinders our ability to do anything else over there. So eventually, if we're able to move the trash compactor, we'll have a covered area over there to expand the automotive program. That's going to be, I say moved, the location is going to be down here in the corner over here. So we'll have a pretty good sized pad with access, water and power already set up over there for us to be able to do that. And so we think that that's going to benefit us having a better setup over here, but also be able to have the automotive program expand in a way that it cannot currently do.
Thank you.
Yes.
Keith, how many students are going to be in there in the new facility at a time, approximately?
So each classroom has seating space for 20,
Mhm.
whether they're all there, at the time or not. Our enrollment as of this minute is 151. And then the expectation is, because we've got quite a few students coming over at this semester. So
Yeah.
my expectation is we'll be probably about 175 or 180 total by February 1st, just as we get through the semester transition.
What's going to be, what's the space that you're vacating? What's that going to be used for? Is that going to be additional classrooms for Gladiola?
Yeah, additional classroom for Gladiola. They're gonna have some additional office space. They've been kind of cramped in there. So they kind of walk by and clear their throat occasionally, hey, you're still here. So it's gonna be good for them, good for us to have our own space and for them to have access to those offices.
Great.
So we currently have 4 teachers sharing one classroom over there, is that correct?
Yeah, they're on a rotating basis.
Right. So, yeah, but we're not freeing up a lot of space over at Gladiola. 5 in one space. So we're not freeing up a lot of space for Gladiola, but we are allowing flex to grow. So.
So the trash compactor, I know years ago we had some neighbor issues at North. What kind of hours do they operate and what's the noise level for the neighbors on 8th Street?
It's a really good question. Hours of operation always vary a little bit, depending on the routes that they run. Typically, it's early morning. And often still dark outside. We still believe that it's not right up against 8th Street over there. It's closer to the where the gate is in the middle of the parking lots there. So yeah, it's inevitable that there's going to be a little bit of noise there, but we just feel like for us, it's a much more desirable location because it still allows us to do that and expand that program up there. But it could be a little bit problematic.
Okay, well, I assume people living over there know that there are early morning classes that create noise also and band practices.
We're on the summer, when band's starting at, 7:30 in the morning.
Get a concert.
It's welcomed by many and maybe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tommy.
Can I ask a quick question for you, Move? This is kind of related to our full faith and credit tracking here. I'm just curious, we've got 2 line items on there.
Yeah, that's gonna be, they're gonna use some more than likely on the next one. So Sam and I were talking about that earlier this afternoon. And that's something that we need to clear up on the maintenance side of things. So the majority of things that are currently showing up there for furnishings are actually the cost of the setup over here. So we're not spending that much money on the On funding.
We're not done yet. It's not looking like we're gonna come out $325,000 from the black, correct?
No.
Okay, just I thought that might not be right. I was curious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, we're.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
second.
This one will be quick, but definitely wanted to share it with you. So we started off tonight with both Allendale and Redwood sharing a little bit about their explorations program. So many of the exploration students, despite both of those schools being across the river, we have one site-based explorations program at the middle school level, and it's at North. We inherit many of those kids as well as kids from a couple other elementary schools in the district. Moving and transitioning to middle school is difficult, but one of the things that's always really challenging is to have a student come to the middle school and no longer have access to a playground. We have great setups at all of our elementary schools, and it's just different when you get to the secondary level. And so we've had a site-based program, an explorations program that has not had the facilities that typically are accustomed to at the elementary level. And they're really, really important for a number of different reasons. And so just sharing a little, this is how North kind of orientates up there, that the red part up above is where the playground is situated. And it looks small, but if you look at the school down below, that's the aerial view. The whole thing's fairly small. So that's where it's going to be located. So that's it. You're walking out the back of the C building up towards Highland Elementary School. So here are a couple pictures from afar. So this is the gravel parking lot up above the C building. The entire playground is fenced in. So just for protection and possibilities of some expansion down the road. So there are three main components to this. There's a swing set, and you'll see better pictures of them in just a second. But there's a set of swings, there's a spinning device, and then there's a sensory wall. So the bottom left down there is the sensory wall, which is really, really important for the population that is going to be experiencing that. There was talk earlier in the first presentation about getting the wiggles out and having different things to do. And this is essentially right outside of their classroom. So when it's time for to take a break, need to get the wiggles out, that essentially meant walk around the school or walk around the track, and that's not super desirable, nor is it always effective for all of our kids. And so being able to operate that apparatus is going to be great for the kids. There's the spinning wheel there. There's a special picture of a swing that's slightly different than what a traditional swing will look like. And then underneath it, there's tile. So it's pretty spongy. Most of our schools have some kind of bark. It used to be pea gravel in the past, but this is really great and offers quite a bit of protection for the kids should there be some kind of fall down or spill. Mentioned that the fences around it were super excited. It was completed over the break. We were hoping to get it done right before the break so the kids could experience, but they were short a few tiles, and so we weren't able to open it up. It was opened and able to be accessed on Monday, but the weather has been such that they haven't been able to go out yet. So we're hoping for a change.
They've gone out.
Oh, they did? Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty hard to look at the candy outside and not be able to go taste it. So we're excited for them to be able to use that. So super excited for North and our program up there. I'd be happy to take any questions about that if there are any.
So are the tiles similar to the ones at Parkside?
Yeah, very similar.
Is it better than wood chips?
Well,
Nobody part.
It's because it creates better access for students that are.
Yeah, hard surface, but still soft if you fall.
And nobody has to go rake the tile. Pick up the mushrooms.
All right,
Okay.
thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.
Government students, you guys are welcome to leave. Make sure you have your signatures. Run,
Or stay.
this is the Barbie, run.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
You're welcome to stay. You don't have to.
They're out. They're out. Too much sitting.
Nothing like starting your presentation. I know. Oh, sorry. I could have.
Usually what happens.
They were getting sleepy.
I'm here to share with you our early literacy success grant application. Here, there we go. So, the legislature this last session allocated money specifically for early literacy, targeting K3, but for a couple of years we can use money for K5, but it is specifically for elementary only. And it has a lot of requirements, so it's not just money we can use for whatever we want. I'll go over that with you. But it is the Early Literacy Success Grant. Here we go. It's a non-competitive grant, so it's a grant, but as long as we do the work, we get the money. It's, you know, they tell us what our allocation is. And it's specifically to support early literacy plans, as long as they are research-based and culturally responsive. You'll notice that the application deadline was January 8th. But it also, anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. And the legislature allocated $90 million for the whole state for the 2-year biennium. There we go. These are the ways that we have to use the money. So professional development and coaching, extended learning programs, which is what we would call a summer school. So it means it doesn't mean even the extended day, it means basically it means summer school, but they call it extended learning program. High dosage tutoring. They're calling it tutoring. It's actually, that's one of the things that won't be new for us at all. When we have students who go into small, like they have their core lesson with their teacher, but then they might go to a literacy specialist for 30 minutes of additional small group work or even individual work. That's what the state is calling high dosage tutoring. Curriculum, which is the next bullet, which we're going to talk about because that's going to be a big use of our funds. And then literacy specialists, coaches, or interventionists that support all of that work. You don't have to use your money for all of those things, but you have to have a plan that addresses all of those things, if that makes sense. So for example, high dosage tutoring, we already have that as a part of our system. We have for many years as a part of our response to instruction and intervention system. Our literacy specialists oversee that program, and that's all paid for out of Title I, federal Title I dollars. So that's what I put in the plan. So we have to have it in the plan, how we're doing those things, but you don't have to use these grant dollars to support that. But you do have to address all of those things. So the timeline, the application opened on December 1st, and you had to have it submitted by January 8th, but you also have to have it presented to the school board, and the school board takes action on it. So you can see that timeline is a little bit problematic given the winter break and all sorts of things. So what they did allow is for districts to submit the grant to meet the deadline, because they were very clear that if a district did not submit a grant by the deadline, then there's no second chance for the money. And then you could submit your board minutes, proof that we've done something like what we're doing right now, by February 28th. They won't review your application until they have the board minutes, but they did allow for that. I don't know what their original thinking was, but they did give us that grace. So, so I did submit the grant, and then hopefully we will be able to take action on it later in this evening. That is the allocation for Grants Pass School District. So this current year, that's another interesting thing. The first year by our allocation is for this current school year, but as you can see, they didn't even open the grant until December 1st, but it's fine, we can make that work. But those are our two allocations. And the most important part, so you got in the packet, the actual, the full grant application and all the questions that had to be answered. And then a full description of how we're planning to spend that allocation, and then the budget was also in there. But in a nutshell, all of the funds that were allocated for this year, we would like to use for the purchase of our new curriculum. So we are in an adoption year. Our current curriculum, this is the final year that we can use it. So regardless of this grant, it just, for us, it was nice timing, but because regardless of that, we were going through an adoption. So I allocated all of this year's funds for that purpose, which works out well, since hard to hire somebody in, last September when we didn't have even know what our allocation was, and you can figure all that out. So for us, it works out fine. So purchasing and supporting the materials for the new adoption. So when we adopt a curriculum, any curriculum, you adopt the core curriculum that is especially reading, but there's lots of other things that go with that don't come necessarily with the adoption. For example, we have a program called ECRI, which comes out of the University of Oregon, and it is a support piece for our current adoption, which is Journeys. Support lessons and materials for that tutoring program that I described earlier. Well, we will no longer have Journeys, but we still have need for that extra support piece. So we would need to buy the new ECRI that matches whatever our new adoption is. So that's what that second bullet is talking about. Any kind of extra materials like that. Something that I'm very excited about, as you know, we have one instructional coach at elementary, Marcy Sarver. She's presented to you before. And that is being currently funded out of ESSER. And as you know, the ESSER funds are expiring. So we knew we were going to have to find another place for to support the curriculum or the instructional coach. And that is one of the main curriculum and curriculum coaches are two of the things that the state is hoping districts will use that money for. So it is our desire to move our current instructional coach out of ESSER into this grant, and then also hire a second coach, because one person for 6 schools is spreading her pretty thin. Also, a lot of professional development and training. It takes a long time to learn a new curriculum. If you talk to teachers, they're nervous about having a new curriculum, not because they are not wanting something new, but it takes a lot of work to learn, even just to know like how to navigate the new online system and where you find things. And so we want to really plan well for how we roll it out. And so that will include paid summer work for interested staff, and then ongoing during the school year release time, which means subs, is basically what that means. And then we also partnered this year with Barbara Steinberg from PDX Specialists out of Portland, and she has done a lot of our science of reading training this year, and we plan to partner with her again and continue that training. And her work next year would be specific to the new program that we adopt. And then another piece that we want to do is direct instruction program training for certified and classified staff. It's actually called direct instruction. It's called the Direct Instruction Institute. It's in Eugene every year. It is a worldwide recognized program, has been in place since from 50, 60 years, a long time. And it is a great opportunity for our educational assistants and teachers. Primarily, we support first our literacy specialists and our special ed teachers, and then the assistants that work in those programs. So we'd like to provide that opportunity for as many of them as possible to have that training. So in a nutshell, that's the plan for the 2-year allocation. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Get the money.
Yes.
All right. No question. Yep.
Not so much a question, but a comment that 2 years from now, will we be able to track the essentially expenses and not where it went, but when we start the budget for the following year and that money's not there, how do we be able to track what was the new, I guess you'd call it, additive expenses that we've incurred for using this grant, so that when we start that budget process, we know how much that is. In other words, it's going to be tracked well. That's kind of my question.
I would say yes, absolutely. As we're doing now and have been doing it with other grants that are have an end date with, you know, that.
So we have, you'll be able to, we will be able to identify which personnel and stuff like that were attached to that grant when we start that budget process.
Yes, the grant will have its own grant budget number, and then we'll be able to track everything through that budget number. And that's how we currently do it.
Okay.
But the other piece of that is, of course, it can always change at the whim of the legislature, but the intention is not for this just to be a 2-year grant. The intention is that it is an ongoing grant, and the 2 years is because of the biennium, like with all of our funding. So I know that like I said, it can always change, but the current legislature intends for it to continue.
Some of those expenditures will be one-time expenditures too.
Yes, all curriculum.
Yeah.
Only pay, just the payroll.
What was the name of the reading material again, or the uniform material?
We had their inboxes in the hallway. We're gonna be reviewing 3 curriculums.
Oh, we don't have it named, okay.
Yeah, no, we're just starting the process. So the team will meet in a couple of weeks just to review our process. And then the beginning of February is our first full meeting where representatives from the 3 companies will present, and then we'll go on from there.
Can you let us know that as time goes on?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
you're looking at?
Yeah. It's the program, I don't remember the names, but
Yeah, that's.
it's the Houghton Mifflin, it's Wonders 2023 and the new program from Savos. Those are the 3. Just so you know, there are any curriculum we adopt needs to be on the approved list from Oregon, from ODE. And so what I did was compare the approved curriculum from ODE with Clearinghouse site, which is the premier research-based clearing site for all curriculums. And then a site out of Florida, which was highly recommended for review of curriculums. And these are the only 3 for elementary that were on all 3 sites. That's why I chose this. You know, you can't look at 20 curriculums. It's overwhelming. So those were the 3 that were on all 3 sites and met all of the benchmarks for a program based on the science of reading. And they are also, all 3 programs have been reviewed by PDX specialists, which is the partnership that we've been working with.
So you did a curriculum audit for us?
Yes, I did, Gary.
Oh, okay. Good.
That's weird. Sugar.
Gary.
All right.
Thank you, sis.
Thank you. All right. You're up.
I'm up, okay. Before I jump into the stuff right there on the agenda, I wanted to kind of go over with all the conversations happening about the weather and what we're potentially seeing overnight, just let the board have an update on how we make a decision on what the school day will look like when we have a snow day. Usually Tommy and I will be in conversation around 4 o'clock in the morning if there's any kind of snow that's fallen. We will both get in our vehicles, and Jeremy Carnes from transportation will get his, and we will each take sections of the city and start driving the streets, and we'll drive them for as long as we need to until we get to the point where Jeremy says my buses need to roll, so I either need to know if we're going or not going. Tommy will also make sure the cooks are aware because they get to work pretty early and start breakfasts. But we're out on the streets driving them dark 30 and making decisions at that point. So just for those of you that may find out tomorrow is delayed or snow day or just a regular old day, that's the process that we use to make those decisions. So a lot of it comes down to how comfortable Jeremy feels running the buses. So, yeah.
It's a metric.
It's the most challenging part of the job. Because if you get it wrong and there's an accident, you feel like horrible. And if you say we're canceling school and you can't even build a snowman by.
There's lots of phone calls.
You are an idiot either way. And when Gabby's calling me up and saying, what's going on? I know I've made a poor choice.
I think, didn't Gary say something about hiring a guy from the coast?
Wow. That's okay. Broad shoulders, I can take it. So, anyway, so just give you that information. Want to let you know that on December 13th of 23, just a couple weeks ago, we received notification from Oregon Department of Ed that we had met our required compliance for the Division 22 standards. The Division 22 standards, you were notified about those in October, that we did feel like we were in compliance with all of them. There are a massive amount of things that we have to do, and we covered that with you, and OT agreed that D7 is getting the job done. This month is School Board Appreciation Month, and we do appreciate you a great deal. Thank you all for the many hours you put in, for the work that you do. It is noticed and it is appreciated. We're going to, on the 23rd, do a little something special, and that is policy night. So give us a chance to, show our appreciation in a more tangible way. But we do want to say thank you for all you do. So, right. And Dustin, you don't have to attend, but then you have to wait till sometime in February to get.
It's a secret plan to get you there.
For all I know, it's a hug. I'm not really sure what. But fine, we'll come up with something. Yes. Okay. OSBA Rural Caucus. The OSBA membership has voted to add the Rural Caucus. At this time, there's not a lot of information. We've contacted OSBA and they're trying to figure it out, what's happening, if there's a cost involved or anything like that. What's that? No cost. Okay, all right. We're trying to get information, but our intent is, we believe the board's intent is that you want us to join the Rural Caucus. I'm seeing Chad say yes, Dustin. Nobody shaking their head no. Okay. So we will join that and we'll keep you up to date on where we go from there.
Don't we have to appeal?
We do. I think it's as simple as writing an email. Right.
So our student population doesn't make a difference, or our community population isn't going to make a difference.
We don't believe so. We believe that we're going to be allowed to join.
Super.
We don't meet the criteria, but they have a process to let you in.
Good. Great.
At Gary's request, we've begun the process of looking for quotes and companies to provide us with a detailed analysis of anticipated growth or decline of enrollment. We've got 3 bids today finally, and so we're looking at those. It will take a company about 6 months to get us the information that we need, but it will help the board have a really good, clear idea of what we anticipate for D7, whether we see an increased population or decreased, where a new elementary might go or anything like that. Prices, as Joe can tell you with strategic planning, it's the same with enrollment. They range from 19,000 to 68,000. So, we're not going with the 68,000 one, and we don't need ongoing, $10,000 a year. Information.
75,000.
It was 75 for strategic planning. Yes, it was. So,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just that'll be good information to play into the strategic plan effort.
Yeah. And any potential bond that we may do. Yep.
Potential.
Okay.
Right.
And then in November, the board asked us about our students that are in charter schools outside of D7. And this is the information that we have. We have 161 students that do not call D7 home but live in Grants Pass. This is part of the reason we are pushing so hard to get Flex up and running and so we can figure out ways to re-engage some of these students. Some of these students, to be honest with you, have lived in Grants Pass, have never been students in D7. They've been a part of these schools since they started school in kindergarten. But you asked the question and there's the answer, 161.
And do you know if those are all kids that are attending charters or are they also homeschool? or-
No, this is just students attending charter schools. This is not the homeschool population.
Do you know what that is by chance?
I do not. So.
218 elementary homeschool.
Okay.
Right. So we're working on partnerships with RCC to give students at Flex some college credits. We think that'll be an attraction to homeschool families in the secondary level. You know, once most parents get to about 5th or 6th grade math, the desire to continue to homeschool diminishes. It starts getting tricky about them. So, all right.
Any reason for a 4th grade spike in numbers?
On
The charter?
They were.
oh, I don't know.
I don't know if it's a spike. You know, I don't know if it's.
I don't know if it's
Consistently been. Is it traveling through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is it consistent with COVID?
Yep.
Probably.
Yep. Go back to-
COVID kindergarten.
Oh, is that what that is? COVID kindergartner. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
It would have been.
Question,
Yeah.
Tim,
Yes.
on the enrollment increase or decrease, consultant kind of thing, what do we currently do besides to go to the birthing center at the hospital, or, I mean, is there a current way that we're forecasting?
There's
beyond using a consultant.
for long range forecasting.
Yeah.
We don't really have a 10-12 year forecasting plan, but Susan's gonna tell you what we do for shorter range.
Andy's work with early literacy and trying to,
Yep.
for a different purpose, for the purpose of who do we contact to say come to do our program. She worked with All Care, and so they have the names and addresses of everybody born in Josephine County by year, so that it is a way to look at what could be now, if they live here now, not necessarily, but anyway, I have that, I don't have it in hand, but I have that of what the birth rates are of our current 0-year-olds, 1, 2, 3, 4.
But this is gonna look at new construction, those kind of things, right? What's going on in the Grants Pass. They'll look at all the building permits that have been issued and so forth. Yeah, yes.
So a couple of times, so I'll say like once a decade or so, we have hired Portland State University that kind of specializes in this kind of statistical review and projection to try and get some numbers. And
Correct.
so we still have the last one, which is getting close to 10 years.
Yeah.
old.
Yep.
Actually, I think it passed during COVID.
May have. Yeah.
Be curious how accurate it was.
It was actually pretty close.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things about that particular one was to see the cohorts, you would think once they started, some size cohort at kindergarten or 1st grade that tend to continue. But in the projections, it didn't. And they had specific reasons why that was that aren't explainable, but kids just show up at certain grades, like 9th grade, the cohort jumps for some reason. So anyway, there was a lot of interesting information in at least the Portland State.
It's 5th grade math.
There you go.
Thanks, Debbie, that was helpful.
We don't, so this is information of all potential District 7 students. This is not kids that have left D7, correct? Did I say that
This,
correctly?
they could have. This up here, these students are not in D7.
They're not in D7 and they were, or they could be.
They could be, they may have been, but some of them have never been.
So we do have a way to cross-reference if they've been in D7, we just didn't do that. Because it would be on a.
Very expensive. So when I kind of look up, I see if they've ever been with us, if they're withdrawal, then, you know, sometimes I get notified that they've come back, so then I check to make sure that they've come back and cross them off the list, but it's constantly moving. It's not constantly, and sometimes moving between charter schools. And once they've gotten the approval to go for like a couple of years, they don't have to ask anymore, so I don't get notified. So I wait for them to give me lists, which are not accurate until about December.
Just curious, because we have had conversations about charter school linked with D7 and what that might look like. So it'd be really interesting to me to know how many of these people at one point in time were actually interested in District 7 versus they're not at all. And so we're barking up the wrong tree. So that might be interesting information. And that fourth grade year,
I'm probably about halfway through.
we'd be curious maybe to pull those families in particular, because that's a change relative to COVID. If we hadn't reached out to those.
And we did reach out. The principals, personally called every single family that was at a charter school or on the homeschool list. This is post-COVID, right? And about coming back and what were their reasons. I mean, depended on the reception of how detailed the conversation was, but personally called every single family.
That's great.
The charter and homeschool families.
As we talk about that going forward, or potentially going forward, that might be information that would be great to aggregate somehow, so that there's abilities to make decisions based upon that information. If it hasn't been, or I mean, I know that's hard, but yeah. I think it would be valuable, but we can talk about that.
Very. It was. There weren't necessarily things other than, parents of our youngest kids at the time, who didn't want their, either we weren't protecting them enough from the potential of COVID, or what we were required to do was something that they didn't do. So there was that, but then they found that they were happy doing what they were doing. A lot of our, I know we're getting off, a lot of our primary age students who went to homeschool, families just found a way that they could make that work, and then discovered that they really liked it. It wasn't something maybe they had considered before, but they lived that time with their kids. And would share that they planned for their kids to come back at middle school, but they felt like they could handle elementary curriculum and wanted that opportunity.
What is the mechanism for knowing kids whose families actually move out of the district, leave the state, or move to a different part of Oregon? So, because I think I remember the number during COVID, the drop was somewhere around 600 students total. That was kind of attributed to COVID.
Closer to 800, we went from 62, almost 6,200 to almost 5,400. So I don't know, I can't speak to what the district did at that time. We are having a lot of conversations with our high school principals, or 3 high school principals, about how we are going about following up students when they leave the school. In fact, we had that conversation again yesterday, making phone calls, reaching out. We were having that conversation based on the fact that students are leaving us and not re-enrolling somewhere, and then that count as a dropout against us. And so we want to make sure that if they're leaving, they're finding a home, we're supporting them to do that. Every student who does a interdistrict transfer, or is telling us they're going to a charter school, they have to talk to Keith and get browbeat into staying before. Right, so that and Keith has had a really strong success rate of keeping them engaged in D7. So we are reaching out, we're doing a lot of conversations with our families to find out what's going on, but a lot of times they're just moving and, you know, job change or whatever for the parents, so.
And the way
Yeah,
we know
thank-
where they go is because we get a request for records from the news.
Okay.
flow. And so then we know if it's out of state, different district.
Gotcha.
different school.
Okay, that's good. I was curious what there'd have to be a mechanism other than just having to call down a list and see who picks up or doesn't, or.
The majority of students land someplace when we get a request for records from that new place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, even a charter school, yeah, anywhere. Most states.
Yeah, I agree with Chad. We'll need to get when we're talking about, carry that conversation about the potential of a district charter. We need to get a good handle on the feasibility of it and if there's demand for it and how many we can get involved and all that stuff. So it'll be important to kind of for all that information.
Okay. Any more? Superintendent, we'll move on to 6.1. Board reports and special concerns. Does anybody have anything? Or listed here he goes?
Yeah, I do, if I could quickly. Two things happened in December that were, for me, a wonderful experience. One is I had the opportunity to participate with Nate and with Debbie on interviews, on the mock interviews with the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, mostly 10th graders, I believe. But I just wanted to share with the community, you should be very proud of those kids, at least from my perspective and my experience. Every single one of those children that I interviewed were articulate. They had goals. They were clear in their thought process. They were polite. I would have hired them for anything. They were just terrific. Enjoyed every bit of that day. And the second thing I'd like to share is I went to Gladiola and spent a day over in Gladiola. And that was a remarkable experience for me because I hadn't had an opportunity to go over there and visit that school. And what was fascinating for me, I know the purpose and the mission of the school, but for me, it's always about talking with kids. Most important information I can get from any kind of school setting is a conversation with the kids. And I spoke with about 10 kids over there. And it was absolutely wonderful because here these kids, maybe a little rougher time in life, but they had goals. They knew what they wanted to do. They knew what they wanted to do when they graduated. And I certainly commend the staff and the teachers and the leadership over there for the outstanding job that they're doing with that group. There was one mother I met, and she didn't come from wealthy means. It was very clear. But she was so grateful for that school. And she was she started tearing up, she started crying, talking about what that school meant to her children and her family and the difference that it made in her life. So congratulations to Gladiola. It was a very worthwhile tour. And I recommend it for anybody, if they can, to take that tour. Yeah, great job.
I think connection is what I hear from Gladiola when I talk to people in the community. They feel connected. Anybody else?
I can't remember if we talked about what a wonderful concert the music department put on. Last year.
Yeah.
Last year.
Last year, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they did a fabulous job.
And I assume that the theater group will put on a interesting show this weekend as part of the Martin Luther King Day festivities. And I'm sorry I missed that, but hope to hear a report from somebody else.
Right?
I have.
Nobody else is making eye contact. You're up. Right now.
There you go.
Oh.
3 minutes, Gary.
Just a lot of blue paper. First I gotta read what we need. For some reason, I'm not able to get that picture.
What
There's
picture
like
you want
it's
to see?
partial scroll. Actually, I'm gonna go back to the,
Want to go back to
yeah.
the graphs?
Is there any way to?
That's
make it
what we
just
have.
Scroll partial,
Is there any way to make it so that it can scroll?
no. All right, here we go.
You want the mouse? You said you might be able to do it with the mouse.
Okay. So partially, my report today is about this article. We need confirmation from Tanya. Theoretically, I think anybody in her Dean7 family in the community, is that correct, Tanya? If they go to the agenda, they go to click on the link.
Yes.
In this paper.
Yes.
Okay. So anybody in our Dean7 community or our entire community, can go to our agenda and click on the link and actually read this paper if they choose. And I always like the titles. Nobody ever gets credit for fixing problems that never happened. So when things are going well, they're going well because people did a lot of work to get you there, but nobody ever gets credit for that. In particular, these. Anyway, mostly I want to talk about this today because the concept of working smarter, not harder, is going to go to our budget process that's coming up here soon. When we try to get better, I need to control button. In any event, this is the top part of graphic about improvement, and it talks about your capability. You have some capabilities, that's all of our staff, the entire apparatus, the organization of District 7, but that capability erodes over time. For instance, we use some of our really good teachers, Dr. Klaus, doesn't leave the district anymore. Andy Fry is retired. Sean Rhodes will be leaving soon. That results in a capability erosion. We hire new people, but they need professional development and things like that to get up to the capability of our best teachers and things like that. There's other things in the district that we need to do to increase our capability. Sometimes increasing capability comes with a cost. You can't just work harder. We can't have some board members that they want 100% reading without investing in some kind of improvements that would cause the capability of the district to be able to reach that goal. So I'm just trying to help people with the mindset about what it takes to do improvement. And skip most of these. So at this point, Tanya, can we flip to just the graphic? So. Working harder, in this case, from a private sector viewpoint, would just be asking your staff, employees, to put in more hours, to just do more of what they're already doing. You get the capability erosion that we talked about, and so the actual performance, if you have some initiative and everybody works harder for a couple of months, you get a little bump in performance. But over time, your capability and your actual output will go down. And so the middle box talks about how much time you spend improving and how much time you spend working. And then the bottom box is showing what your capability is doing over time. So over time, our capability is eroding for various reasons. So to the concept of working smarter is how much time are you going to spend improving? What are those things you're going to do that are going to make it so you have the capability to reach some of these aspirational goals that we have? To do that, we have limited resources, so we can't just hire a bunch of people to do it better. So we have to take what we have and have them spend more time improving, less time essentially doing the current mission. So it looks like a little bit of a performance decrease initially, but over time, when you do that, your capability to perform goes up. What you're able to do in the same with the same resources becomes greater. So just to throw out a couple things as we go into the budget season, if we pick some item and we say, well, we're going to dedicate some resources to working smarter, improving our capability, that's going to take money away from, let's say, a classroom teacher. So one of the, over the years, one of the kind of the automatic responses to spending money in an area that I would call improving your capability was, well, that's going to increase our class size this year. So we don't want to do that. So we're going to have to do trade-off for spending money to do things that increase our capability so we can hit our aspirational goals. So one of those things might be strategic planning. If we spend some money budgeted this next year for strategic planning, that would take away the ability to, depending on how much it costs, have a classroom teacher for that year, which means, you know, readjusted and means one or two kids extra spread out over the entire system. But nevertheless, it does increase our class size. So I just want to give people the mindset as we go into this budget period of what can we do to increase our capability so we can reach some of our aspirational goals. So that's pretty much it. If you actually read through this entire paper, it has some really good examples of that. How it worked down in the private industry, not in an educational setting. But I guess the other thing about that is it requires kind of a culture change. So part of the reason to get up here and say it during board meetings instead of just passing a paper is to try and make the case, change our culture a little bit, to actually think about increasing our capability so that we can reach some of our aspirational goals. So that's it.
Okay, thanks, Gary. It's great. It's great.
Thank you, Gary.
So, I remind you to state your name when we take action on items. Tanya knows who making motions and seconding.
Well, before we start the action items, I think we should ask Tanya what she thinks we should do.
You already know the answer.
Trying to lead you. Not listening. Okay. 7.1 plan for approval of plan core statements.
Madam Chair, I move that we table this till the next meeting. I appreciate the teachers' input and am in favor of the courses, but I would like to vote on them at the next meeting. I don't need to hear the reasoning again next time, but I think we can remember the presentation well enough to be able to vote on it next time.
Want parent advisory to be able to hear it.
I would like Parent Advisory Council to weigh in on it. And also, I think if anyone in the community or on the board wants to check out the textbooks and course material, they'll have the opportunity to do that before voting.
I believe I need a second to table.
Member Schmidt, seconds.
Okay. Any discussion?
I just asked a question that if the plan was to get it on their meeting this week, because I think their PAT's meeting Thursday.
PAC.
Or
Yes.
PAC.
Yes, it will be on the agenda Thursday.
Yeah, it is. on the
So it's a
agenda.
quick turnaround.
Yeah. Well, and we don't want
Well,
the
usually it's the other
PAC
way.
to feel like, the Parent Advisory Committee to feel like they're just rubber stamping the decision the board has already made. We want them to have a genuine opportunity to review the materials and weigh in on it and give the board their input.
I attend those meetings, those are good meetings.
Was there anything that was time sensitive that would be an issue?
It's just that we didn't want all 6 presentations in one board meeting. So,
And normally we would have had the opportunity to have parent advisory last week. It always comes the third day before the board meeting, but because of our holiday break, we decided as a parent advisory to move it to this week. But yeah, again, we just wanted to separate since there are 6 of them and kind of even out the agenda.
And when Trish introduced
Mhm.
the idea, she said she had no problem with deferring it to the next. meeting.
Thanks, Debbie, for your motion. If that would be prudent.
Tanya.
Member Goodall,
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
Member Richardson.
Yes.
Member
Yes.
Brownell.
Yes.
Member Wolf.
Yes. That takes us to 7.2, approval of early literacy grant. We're gonna entertain a motion.
Member Dibdall moves that we approve action item 7.2 early literacy grant.
Member Smith, seconds.
Having a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, Tanya?
Member Goodall.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
Member Richardson.
Yes.
Member Siegel.
Yes.
Member Brownell.
Yes.
Member Wolf.
Yes. 7.3,
7.3 is approval of a repeal of a resolution and then replaced with a new resolution. Members Sable and Member Richardson created the resolution that is before you today. Nathan asked me to make sure it was widely distributed with the help of the central office team. We made sure we got it out for the equity team, and a variety of high school students. So they were able to look at it and provide feedback. Feedback was all delivered to Nathan and he made changes to the document. taking into account feedback that he had received. The final decision is before you today. This resolution does not impact or change policy ACB, which is one that also addresses equity, diversity, and inclusion. So, but it does repeal a resolution from 2021. Excuse me.
We do have a blue card.
So Judy has left. She said she would talk to the board later.
Kendra.
Do I stand here? I haven't been to a school board meeting in a long time, but one of my first meetings was when the previous resolution was made. I was appalled by it. So I just want to give you kudos and thank you for what you're doing. It's a lot of work to make these changes. And I appreciate that you asked for feedback and got feedback with that. And I just wanted to point out a few things that I felt like the old one was had little, if not or nothing to do with student success and achievement in school. And so I feel like this is very to the point and succinct with what the goals are. And specifically, I liked the inclusion of everyone. I feel like over the past few years, there's been a lot of divisiveness within groups and within our school community, which is really sad. I have 4 children that went through Grants Pass School District. I'm a small business owner and community member. So the things I really liked was you emphasizing students, family, educators, which are sometimes left out of the equation, and community. I liked affirming the civil and constitutional rights of every individual, again, in our community. That feels really good to people out in the community that aren't necessarily directly involved in the school, but love the school, love the district, it's a big part of who Grants Pass is, right? I liked, my focus is always on achievement. Teaching the kids academics so they can be successful when they go out in life and get jobs and be able to support their families. And I like that you put narrowing the gap between actual and potential performance, because that's what we're doing. We're trying to take every child where they are and bring them up to their maximum potential, which is really important. The history part was especially good for me. I'm not great at history, but I'm learning a lot more. It wasn't my forte in high school. I wish I had a great history teacher, like some of them here. But it's important that we tackle the good and the bad of history. How can you learn from it if you're just going to erase parts of it? So that's really important to me. I like the group judgmentalism. Again, going back to the divisiveness, I think we got into group labeling, and I thought that was so destructive. And so to bring our school culture back to unity, that's mentioned, where we're not labeling groups or children, where we're all one, we're united. And so I just want to say thank you for what you did, and I support this spirit.
Thank you. Would entertain a motion?
No blue cards.
No, just one.
So motion to repeal and replace equity, diversity, and inclusion resolution 2021-3. Whereas the Grants Pass School District 7 School Board is committed to fostering inclusive and supportive environments for all students, families, educators, and community members. And whereas it is crucial to address discrimination, affirm constitutional rights, and promote individual achievement and understanding of societal history. And whereas the resolution on cultivating inclusion and individual empowerment 2023-1 offers a comprehensive framework to condemn intolerance, promote inclusivity, and enhance educational practices. Now, therefore, be it resolved that One, repeal of the previous resolution, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Resolution 2021-3 is hereby repealed in its entirety, effective immediately. So, there is a typo in the motion I'm reading here. So I'm gonna back up and fix the where I stated resolution on cultivating inclusion and individual empowerment, and I said 2023-1, that should have been 2324-2. So fixing the typo. Now therefore be it resolved that repeal of previous resolution, equity, diversity, and inclusion resolution 2021-3 is hereby repealed in its entirety, effective immediately. 2, enactment of new resolution. This board hereby adopts resolution on cultivating inclusion and individual empowerment 2324-2. This resolution shall be the guiding framework for condemning intolerance and discrimination while promoting inclusivity, equity, and empowerment, encouraging educators and staff to engage with each student personally and involve families in their education, committing to ongoing evaluation and enhancement of educational practices and matching student interest with future opportunity, ensuring professional development fosters unity, respect, and rejects group judgmentalism, engaging the community in learning about diverse histories and fostering respectful dialogue, respecting personal beliefs and promoting critical thinking and intellectual curiosity, encouraging fairness and avoiding bias in student engagement, and adhering to all applicable legal standards and promoting a safe, lawful, and respectful environment. Be it further resolved that a copy of this motion upon passing shall be distributed to all relevant parties, ensuring transparency and inviting continued community engagement in the spirit of this resolution.
Looking for a second.
Member Schmidt seconds.
Excellent. Being a second, is there any discussion?
Cassie, I was just wondering if it, for the benefit of the public and all of us here before we discuss it, we actually read it in its entirety.
I think it was provided in the original agenda. You're asking.
I guess I was looking for. So I received a copy of the resolution. I don't believe I received a copy of the lengthy motion.
It should be in the packet.
It was loose. It wasn't in the binder. The whole bunch of.
So,
okay, thank you. May I have a, can I call for a brief recess bathroom break while I read this?
Yes.
Thank
5-minute break.
I believe we call those bio breaks now.
Bio. No. Appreciate it. Tanya, we have a motion and second. Can we have a roll call vote?
Member Bidwell,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Schmidt,
Yes.
Member Richardson,
Yes.
Sable,
yes,
Brownell,
Yes.
Yes.
we have a New Year's resolution.
Hey. We go.
Got to stick to it. Okay, 7.4, approval of strategic planning process.
Would you like me to?
Sure.
Okay. During the December meeting of the school board, I shared a presentation regarding the need and reasons for a long-term strategic plan. I'd like to take a moment to review my presentation to ensure that all understand the importance of and reasons for embarking upon the process. First, it's the board's primary responsibility to set goals and vision, and that's comes from OSBA. It's the board's responsibility to provide oversight of the strategic plan. Turning goals into vision and action is the responsibility of the superintendent and administrative staff. The purpose is to clearly create a plan for the direction of the school and provide the goals that will be supported through stated objectives. assign responsibility for accomplishing specific goals and objectives, ensure that resources, personnel, and assets are available to accomplish goals and objectives, ensure goals and objectives are successfully completed in a timely fashion, ensure that goals and objectives reflect the will of the community for which the school serves, ensure the goals and objectives support long-term planning such as direction of learning program, facility master planning, financial security, among others. There's a process that we talked about. I won't lay the process out. It was in the PowerPoint when I presented it. But it is the board's responsibility to ensure that our district is able to deliver for our students the finest education possible in the most safe and supportive environment possible. This education must reflect the values of the community and principles of good practice, legal requirements, and be current and future thinking in its approach. Strategic planning should provide the template for direction for the moment, near future, long-term future, and allow for future leaders to possess a template for direction that is clear but provides opportunities for flexibility as times change and unknown challenges occur. Clear goals and objectives with accountability are essential to the success of any institution, including education institutions. Since the last meeting, Tim, Trish, Danny, Susan, and I interviewed 3 potential candidates who would serve as facilitators for this process. All were highly experienced and presented unique approaches to the process. 2 were larger strategic planning consulting firms with extensive descriptive audio visuals that explain their process and included a fairly large staff. Their sophisticated presentations were also reflected in their fees. Both of their approaches involved a long-term relationship with the school, and although not opposed, they were reluctant to lead a short retreat for the purpose of creating a macro plan that would be micromanaged by the district personnel rather than the organization. Their minimum price was $35,000, but it was up to $200,000 or more if they could take care of you over the year after year after year. The final interview was with an individual facilitator who has spent his career in education and served as an undersecretary of education for the state of Oregon. He's been leading strategic planning retreats for several years for school districts, schools, and nonprofit organizations, and comes highly recommended. He fits the description of our needs and the proposed process like a glove. His fees also reflect the initial proposal that I made in December, $8,000 to $10,000. Excluding district costs for substitutes for those faculty who may participate in the retreat. We have had many discussions regarding the issues that are of importance to this board as it assesses and looks to the future for the district, including academic program, career programs, AVID, test scores, finance, facilities, endowment, faculty health and wellness, community health, student behavior, drug and alcohol abuse, etc. This is the best opportunity for us to implement these ideas as goals into a strategic plan that clearly states the goals and provides for accountability and measurements of success. With that being said, I'd like to make the motion that we embark upon the formal strategic planning retreat and process as outlined in the presentation, approve funding and hire a facilitator to assist us with this process with a goal of having the plan completed by August of 2024 or 2024.
Is that a motion?
That's my motion.
Staple, seconds.
Is there any discussion?
There is.
Okay.
Let me stress, I'm not advocating for this. I just want people to think about this. What was the high number? 200,000?
Yeah.
If $200,000 enabled District 7 over the next 5 years to achieve 90+% graduation rates, 95% plus third grade reading scores, 90+ on track, 9th grade.
Graduate.
Yeah, on track for graduation. Would that be too much money to spend?
No.
I just want people to think about that. So that's kind of my discussion. starting smaller is fine. But in terms of increasing our capability, what would we really be? Would we commit to really achieving some of those higher capabilities, capacities for the district? Because I mean, sometimes we think too small.
You know, Gary, I'd like to respond to that. I think that's a really, really good point. And I think thinking too small is a danger that you can get yourself, a trap you can get yourself caught into in any organization. I think because it's a 5-year plan, we start with this fashion, see how it goes over the next 5 years. And if a greater emphasis or a greater effort is needed, then you kick it up. But I've seen it be very successful in the way we're proposing right now. And much of the work has already been done in terms of program and academic learning.
And I would just say that every dollar we spend is important and should not be wasted. And I do think that an investment with this, it's all about return on investment.
Yep.
And from what I've seen, in seeing strategic plans done and how they align groups and align priorities, I think it will be a good return on investment. And it will likely, even because we will be smarter and more aligned between the district and the board on how we are allotting resources, it'll likely save us as time goes on. Save us money. You say that. Like, what does he talk about? Save us. Save us what? I've seen that happen in organizations because you get less scattershot spending and flip-flopping of priorities, and you get aligned and you go. And of course, there's going to be some of that, but I think it's going to be a good investment.
Excellent. Okay. Can we have a roll call vote?
Member Dipple?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Schmidt?
Yes.
Member Richardson?
Yes.
Member Sable?
Yes.
Member Brownell?
Yes.
Member Wolf?
Yes.
Okay.
8.0, future meeting date. No.
7.5, Sam.
Sorry, Sam.
It's totally okay with me.
It's a little messy over here.
Actually, just a clarification, it's actually the protection action plan is corrective action plan, which sounds more serious, I know. Also, the item you have in your binders was updated in the 11th hour by our audit firm, so I have a newer updated one. If you want to take one, pass it down, would be awesome. Thank you. And it's very slightly modified, but modified nonetheless. And it's just a result of a finding in our audit. Two material weaknesses, which were generated by one event. And the one event was, my understanding is that we were using ESSER money to fund our debt on our HVAC that we had done, which was approved by ODE. But the auditors don't agree. Which often I'm finding they don't, but in fact, we again talked to ODE today about why they approved it and why it's being kicked back at us now. So we're actually still working toward possibly coming to our way of thinking on it, which doesn't often change with an auditor, but we do want to see what happens with that. But this is the corrective action plan that they helped develop, and we need to put in place to address that particular item. The crux of it is that we generally speaking, you need to actually expense the money. What we did is we took it and we put it in our debt fund to pay over several years. The black and white of that is that you actually have to spend the money, not just move it to a different account, even though it was put in our debt service account.
So it's my understanding that if we don't spend that money, we have to give it back.
No, not at this point. So we actually technically still have till September 30th to spend that money. We still hope to spend it on the debt service.
Mhm.
We just didn't spend it at the end of 22, 23 on the debt service. That's, we got the money then, we recorded it as revenue then, we should have recorded it as an expense then, which we did by moving it to the debt service, but we did not give it to the debtor.
And we cannot give it to the debtor because we can't just hand them $4 million and get this off our books
Right.
and reduce our debt because of why.
Our obligation is to pay, we aren't allowed to pay it early at this point. To refinance it makes no sense because we're at 1.96 whatever at this point.
So is there a fee or a penalty for early payback or just?
Right
no-
now,
no
there's,
option?
right now, the answer is you can't do it.
So
I have asked a question, I've thrown that back out, saying not necessarily taking the no as the final no. And we're still working on that as well.
What debt are we talking?
We're talking about the 15 million from for the HVAC and LED at most of the schools that we went into debt 2020.
And that was with US.
With US Bank.
US Bank.
It's a 1.96 interest rate and no early payoff. So we put $4 million into debt service and the auditors are saying you still have $4 million on your books and that has to be spent by September 30th. And what they're also saying is you didn't follow the procedures for spending the ESSER funds, which is why we have a corrective action plan.
However, ODE said it.
ODE gave us permission to spend it in the manner that we have. Yes, right, and that was all the way back to Sherry as the business manager. So
if I remember correctly, that US Bank contract is also the one that had some clauses in it that caused some problems.
Correct.
With,
full faith and credit loan.
Yes. Yes.
That one they did fix for us.
and US Bank's been contacted about a possible fix.
That was the first no I got, yes.
Okay.
So that we haven't stopped there, but
The worst case scenario we have is that we are going to use. If we can't figure anything else out, some of the money we've spent on this full faith and credit money. Will then go to the $4 million will go to that and that will free up full faith and credit money. And then we'll use that money to do whatever. But what you're seeing is. Auditors are saying we didn't follow the rules of the grant, even though ODE said we were following the rules of the grant. Which is one of the things you talk about. Sometimes government agencies don't mesh really well with each other.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Imagine that.
They would have
The auditors do. Yeah. So what we're asking tonight is for you to approve the corrective action plan. And we're working to get the $4 million resolved.
But the corrective action plan doesn't talk about the money. Right?
no, it just says that we will pay more attention to what the rules are.
Yeah, so that
And
all
use
sounds,
our-
I mean, it doesn't sound like the expectation is that there's correction on the money side, it's just saying. Make sure that. Expenditures have been incurred, revenue has been earned prior to recording expenses in their revenue.
Which we do.
Like in the future.
So
So it's being literal on what this says. It's not saying go fix. So I mean, are we required to go?
So where we're at now is we were required to move the money that we did not spend, didn't physically send to US Bank. To move it out of revenue and into unearned revenue to this year. We have until September 30th. To spend those monies for ESSER, that's when that ends. We will have an opportunity to make 2 more payments, regular payments, so that will reduce that down. To approximately 900,000. That we will can spend, and if we're able to spend it on an early payment. If we can, we're gonna try to do that. If not, we have other avenues that we can spend it. So it's not like we're under a crunch.
So it just replaces part of another line item somewhere.
Yeah, essentially. No, yeah,
As Gary would say, I just want to make sure we're not solving a problem that doesn't exist.
yeah.
Is that what you said? Well, not getting credit for either one of them. So I would just be as literal as we need to, especially if we're in compliance with one government agency.
Have
So in the future.
change our internal controls.
The internal controls that we have. Where, and even our auditors would admit that they felt that we followed them and took the answer from ODE. Still makes, you're still wrong.
Sure.
That's, I mean,
Right.
it, you know, we think you did great, but you still didn't do it right. So we already learned our lesson. Write that down. You can't do that. You can't do, which we know generally anyway, but again, we keep that approval. It seemed like they seemed good to us, and apparently to ODE at the time. And again, they're re-engaged with it, so we want to see where that goes to, but it's more of a discussion to see.
A little bit, we liked the answer we got from ODE, so we quit looking.
I don't know, they're, in fact, they'll even say there, which was the recommendation by KDP, our auditing firm, is they're a resource for us to check for these things. And we did. But they apparently don't know that they're wrong.
ODE is a resource.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I would
Sorry
recommend
for
we
your frustration.
would recommend we have a motion.
What, my discussion before motion?
I know we're good at it, but probably, if we're talking about following rules, we should probably have done an internal audit and feel it.
Have we covered the second page?
So they're related. One has to do with the actual federal grant itself not following the rule, and because of the amount of money, that's number 2 for the federal grant. Number 1 is our internal accounting controls. And because of the amount, it dings us in that for the same violation.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I move we approve the protection action plan for the budget.
Having a motion, is there a second?
Member Schmidt seconds.
Having a second, is there any discussion?
Protective protection action plan is.
It's corrective.
It should be corrective action
Yes.
plan. We would like to edit that.
Tanya, may I have a roll call?
Member Vidal,
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
I want to get to see next.
You already voted.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
Yes,
Say yes again.
yes.
Member Sable.
Yes.
Member Brownell.
Yes.
Dustin, did you say yes?
Yes.
Member Smith, thank you. Member Wilkins.
Yes.
Yes, so that's next to each other.
Okay. 8.0, future meeting dates, suggested agenda item are as listed. I'm saving oxygen. And I will recess regular session.
The wellness challenge, I need anybody on the board who wants to sign up on my team.
What's it?
Board directors, admin.
Depends on what the name is.
We put the.
Well, we
put
put what's on the team.
Reopen general session. Agenda item 2.1.1.
Well,
It's getting late.
Close to bad time. All right, I'd entertain a motion.
Member Sable. Motions to approve agenda item 12.1.1 MOA GPA -GPAS.
Member Smith.
And, oh, we're doing
No.
it together. Okay. And 12.1.2 MOA GPACE - professional development workshop.
Member Smith seconds.
I mean, a second. Tanya, can I have a roll call vote?
Member Dizelle,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Snell,
Yes.
Brownell.
Yes.
Yes. We are.
So